Hello and welcome back. Now we have just finished creating a footsteps notify, and in our anim notify blueprint, we're playing a sound at location and spawning system at location using a Niagara particle system. But now we'd like to determine the surface type that we're standing on, and that will help us decide what sound to play and what system to spawn. Now, this is a blueprint, but we can create C++ functions that we can call from blueprints. So each time we touch our foot to the ground, any animation that has the notify will play this notify and call our C++ function. So let's go back to the C++ side and create a new function here in shooter character. Now I'm going to go down to the protected functions section and create a new protected function. And this will be a void function, and I'm going to call this function footstep. Now footstep is going to be a U function, so we're going to add a U function macro, and this is going to be blueprint callable. So why don't we go ahead and add the blueprint callable macro specifier. Now we can give this a function body, and we'll put this here in shooter character. Now I'll give this a fully qualified function name. And here in footstep, we're going to want to figure out the surface we're standing on. Now we can do this in any number of ways. I'm going to use a line trace, and if we use a line trace, we need a hit result. So let's create an F hit result, and we'll call this hit result. And we're going to call line trace single by channel, and that is on the U world. So we're going to get the world, and from the world, we're going to call line trace single by channel. Now line trace single by channel takes the hit result as the first argument, so we're going to pass in hit result. And we're going to need a start and end vector. So what I'd like to do is just simply use the actor location for the start. So I'm going to create a local variable just to make it clear that this is the starting location. So this will be a const f vector called start, and this will be set equal to get actor location. Now the end of the line trace can be simply some spot below the feet of the character. So we can take our start location and add to that in order to get a vector that is below our character. So this will be a const f vector, and we'll call this end, and this will be equal to start plus an f vector. So we'll create an f vector temporary, and I'm going to make this a vector with 0 for the x and y, and say negative 400 dot f for the z, and so this will be at the location of the start minus 400 in the z, so it'll be below the character. So we can pass these into line trace single by channel. So the second parameter will be start, the third will be end, and we need a collision channel, so we can pass in e collision channel, and I'm going to use visibility. And next we need collision query params. Now I'm going to create some collision query params. So this is of type f collision query params. I'm going to call these query params. And the reason I'm using query params is because f collision query params has a variable that has to do with returning a physical material if we hit one. And so we can enable that by using our query params variable and accessing b return physical material. We can set this to true. And now our line trace will return a physical material if it hits one. So we can pass that as the next parameter. And I'll go ahead and put these each on their own line so you can see what it is we're passing in. So this next parameter will be query params. Now just to see what it is that we're hitting and to make sure that we are hitting something, we can test this out by simply doing a UE log. So I'm going to do UE log. It's going to be log temp warning And the text is simply going to say hit actor with the format specifier for a string. And the string is going to be the name of the hit actor. And we can access that from hit result. So we can say hit result.actor. And from the actor, we can call get name. And since this is an F string that get name returns, we need to use that operator overload for the asterisk, which returns a C-style character array string. Now, because this actor is being accessed, we always want to check to make sure that something is not null before we access its members. So we're going to say if hit result.actor. If that actor is valid, then we're going to access its getName function. So with this UE log, we'll go ahead and compile and start walking around and seeing what hit actor we get printed to the output log. Okay, so let's go back into the editor we have compiled, and here in the footsteps notify, instead of spawning sounds and particle systems, we can call our U function. So I'm going to move these down, and I'm going to get the mesh component, and from the mesh component, I'm going to call getOwner. So getOwner will get the owning actor of this mesh, and we can take this owning actor and cast it. So I'm going to cast to shooter character BP. So that way we can access all the properties of the shooter character. And what I want to access is the footstep function that we just created, this blueprint callable U function. So we're simply going to call that, which will perform the line trace, and we should get a message printed to the output log. So we can come back to the default map and open our output log and go ahead and hit play. And now we can start to take some steps, and as that notify gets called, we'll get the UE log printed to the output log. And so we can go ahead and step up onto some surfaces that have different physical material surface types. So what we're doing is we're simply getting a line trace, and from that line trace we're getting the hit actor and getting the name of that actor. So you can see we're getting the jungle arch here, and if I jump onto the grass, it looks like the grass doesn't have a collision hull for this plane. So that's something we can fix before we wrap this up. So let's go ahead and select this grass plane here. Looks like it's the static mesh plane. And we can browse to this asset. It's the SM plane 5x5M. And let's give this a collision hull. So here in the mesh editor, I'm going to show simple collision, and there's nothing here to show. So we can add a collision to this plane. We can simply go to collision and add box simplified collision, and we'll get a box. I mean, it's just a plane, so the box doesn't really have any thickness to it, but it's still enough to provide collision so that we can step up onto this. So I'm going to click save, and we'll go ahead and right here next to this grass, I'm going to right click and play from here, which this little menu here is in the way. So I'm going to click cancel on this, and I'll right click and play from here. And then I'll just simply step up onto the grass. Now, if I get my mouse cursor, I can see that we're getting this SM plane 5x5M2, and that is the static mesh that we are on, SM plane 5x5M2. If I select it, it's this one. And just really quickly, I'm going to run onto the water as well, make sure that I'm getting this plane as well. And I'm noticing that this grass looks a little bit plain. And so I think before we end this video, I'm going to add a little bit more to this grass by going all the way up to our content folder and searching for grass. And we have a bunch of different options here. One of the things that I see is this static mesh field grass. And this is in, it looks like game/kite demo/environments. So we can actually browse to this. So we can show in folder view. And it looks like it's in this folder called Kite Demo. Now this was added to our project when we added one of those asset packages or one of the environments that we downloaded. So we have this static mesh field grass. And we can simply paint this on with our foliage painter by going up here to modes and selecting foliage. Now we can add foliage to this. Now I cover foliage painting in my Unreal Engine Blueprints course available on Udemy, but I can go ahead and add a foliage here by taking our static mesh and dragging it over. And that will be our first foliage type here. And I'm just going to use a single foliage static mesh. So here I have the painting tool, and I can simply click and drag and you'll see foliage start to appear. Now if I go up to the select mode, that will give me the cursor back, and I can just simply drag down and see now that I have grass. And it looks like the grass is waving and it looks relatively realistic. So that's going to give me a little bit more than just that material on a plane. Now we have some actual foliage. So I'll go ahead and paint a little bit more foliage before we wrap this up. And I'll get my select tool back. And also with SM Fieldgrass selected, you'll see that the materials use the M ground grass. We can go ahead and browse to that and open that up. And it looks like it's using the PM grass physical materials that we assigned to it. So we don't have to worry about hitting that with our line trace and not getting our physical material later on. It's already got that physical material. Okay, excellent. We can go ahead and close out of the foliage, and now we have some actual grass on our grass section here. So that looks good. So we now have a line trace that will get us the hit actor. What we're going to do after we get that hit actor is get that physical material. So we'll do that in the videos to come. I'll see you in the next video.